Alright guys, welcome to our first attempted podcast. I am Gradette14 and with me today are...
Burk163.
Over on Cloud 9.
And Corbinik, also known as
We are
Redozer
total
Moon.
noobs at this.
Yeah, we did no planning whatsoever. We are going to wing it. Just like everything else we do in life.
So, Gurdette,
Tonight's first
I'm going to be the main host.
Shut
up.
Versus new video games, and this is going to turn into Solaris cutting off Johnny at every turn. God.
Okay, so...
Anyway.
That was a reference to Burn Scratch Comms.
Derp herp.
Shut up.
Derp.
Well,
Anyway.
let's start with the pros and cons of classic video games. I'm gonna say classic will be from the Nintendo 64 and PlayStation, Xbox era down. So
Well, that doesn't really give classic... Well, that gives classic a bit too much room, in my opinion. But if that's what we're going with, alright.
But I disagree because in classic versus new, the new consoles really started, with the Xbox 360, the Nintendo Wii, PlayStation 3, the Nintendo DS, and then all the spin-offs off the DS that came, the PlayStation Portable, all the new consoles that pushed all the old consoles away. I mean, you could consider the PlayStation 2 and a newer console because they still make games for that console for whatever reason. I was checking and they made wrestling and a sports game for it, for whoever knows why.
That's because the PS2 is still one of the most popular systems. Thoughts, Burke?
Well, of course, PS2 is one of the biggest selling consoles, and it still has a huge install base. So if you release a game on it, you're going to sell pretty good. But if we're talking about old games, I always consider the old school systems like the 64 or maybe even the original PlayStation, and I wouldn't really consider that gaming went into the current gen, into the PlayStation 2 and the Xbox and the GameCube, and that's really when you start seeing that game design started getting a lot more technical.
So I guess it's agreed that the older consoles will be from the Nintendo 64 era and down. So to me, one of the biggest pros to the old console games were there wasn't a lot in the games that would distract you like there is in the newer console games. There's not like thousands of different mini games to just mess around with. I mean, sure, certain RPGs for the older consoles like the Final Fantasy series, the Dragon Quest series, the Lufia series, stuff like that, they were like every classic RPG was like that. They were long and they had different things to do. But in like newer games today, there's the main quest, side quests, mini games, just so much stuff to do. You get distracted from the essence of the game.
No, but that is the game.
But oh wait, I'm sorry guys, but the game we all lost. But
screw the game.
But what do you mean it is the game?
I have to disagree that the gamer is being distracted from anything. The mini games, the side quests, the main quests, they're all components of the same game, and they're all something that the gamer devotes time to play.
And they all actually expand on the gamer's universe. And if go Burke.
No, I was going to say that if anything, I feel that the distraction that occurs a lot with the current gen of gaming is more that gaming has become more of a sociable thing because we have the Xbox 360, we have Xbox Live, and gamers are a lot more united through that. And I find myself playing a game, and then a friend will get on, and you just end up playing a multiplayer game, and you're just pulled out of that experience you were having. And before, it was a really personal experience because it was just you on the couch and the TV, and there was really nothing to distract you in terms of what you were experiencing at that moment in time.
But what I'm saying is, in older video games, there just was, I mean, in the later Nintendo 64 Zelda releases, Majora's Mask and Ocarina of Time, definitely in Majora's Mask I noticed it, they integrated, the mini games into the actual, it's not necessary, but it's very recommended because I knew that you needed to play the games to get, you know, the big the huge quiver or whatever, the big bomb bag, the bomb chews, stuff like that, and you needed to, you know, interact with people around the town to get, you know, stuff like the huge wallet and stuff like that. But in older games, it was just, you know, play game, save princess or kingdom, and then that was it. There wasn't any, you know, save princess and on the way there go to a water park, you know?
I'm gonna call bullshit on that, because even classic platformers had tons of different mini games you were playing along the adventure to give you bonus power-ups and such. Kirby and Mario especially. If you were to play certain mini games on the way through Kirby, you would get, you know, either a health power-up, or you had a chance of actually unlocking a room on the hub world that actually gave you a semi-permanent power-up. Or in Mario, you would actually get additional lives, or, you know, just an additional power-up starting with, like, Super Mario World. Cloud, you're up.
Well, it's round table. Anybody can talk when they want, but anything to say, Cloud?
I know, but Cloud is being quiet.
Well, you don't have to initiate me.
I will initiate you, and you will like it.
Don't initiate people.
Initiation. I mean, sure, in old school platformers, but the power-ups were a part of the game. There was something to get out of it, you know. But things like, you know, Final Fantasy games, there were pointless side quests that, you know, didn't really alter the game in much way if you didn't do it. I mean, you can't say that not doing, you know, the little mini games and stuff in the Mario series, getting those extra lives, you know, you can't say that didn't affect the game. That gave you more chances than you needed.
I think, since we're on the subject of mini games, I think the gamer will be satisfied as long as there's ultimately a point. Like in the Ocarina of Time, like in the old Zelda games, you do this, you know, pointless minigame, but you actually get a permanent enhancement that will follow you for the rest of the game. That's what gamers want.
See, I feel that with minigames in video games, that sometimes they offer a in-game break from the main story that is needed sometimes, and it just fleshes out the world more. I mean, if you have a game that is really linear and you give the player no opportunity whatsoever to just take a break from going down that same narrow path, that they're just gonna get bored and they're gonna leave the game. And with Ocarina of Time, even if, I mean, it was like for the bow mini game. Even if you didn't get any prizes like the rubies you got, it was still pretty fun, and you would just do it for fun. And I didn't really care if I won or not, even though it was nice to be able to get the rubies so you can buy whatever you wanted, like a big shield. But I just found it fun, and it was a nice break from the normal things you would be doing in that game.
Well,
even though the control was iffy.
Well, I don't want us to get off too far off subject. So right now we're talking about mini games, and then we're going to start going into, you know, mini games within mini games. But another point I do want to bring up about the older video games, which could be a pro and con depending in the eyes of the beholder. But older video games to me seem like they were more of a challenge to play through, more of a you got more of a sense of reward when you beat one of the old games, like let's say Final Fantasy 1. Back then, before, you know, there were guides and facts on GameFAQs or IGN or whatever, you had to play through the game by, at first, pure luck, and then by memorization. And definitely in Final Fantasy 2, that game took so much memorization that if you were new to the game, you could pretty much walk 2 steps forward from the beginning area and fight enemies that one-shot you automatically, and you deal no damage to them. You know, and
I don't think the enemy spawning zones in FF2 were that bad, but it was pretty bad.
But I mean,
that was, you're talking like the old NES games, where the challenge was up there because it had to be. These were still $60 games, and if you didn't spend like 40 hours trying to beat a basic platformer, something was wrong.
Well, I mean,
see, that's the thing.
Look at the actual Japanese release of Mario 2: The Lost Levels.
Oh.
Like, games back then, they were a lot shorter, and they weren't like now where you have a game that you don't need to stretch out because you have a 20-hour experience. Back then, games were harder because gaming was not mainstream. It was still very much a hardcore thing, and developers didn't have to worry about making their games user-friendly. So you have games that were ridiculously hard,
like
and
Super
it was
Goblins.
yes, like Ghouls and Goblin or
Castlevania,
Battletoads,
Super Castlevania
Battletoads.
4, yeah, Battletoads, Derp was pretty
Symphony
hard.
of the Night,
Symphony of the Night,
And-
I mean, that game wasn't too hard, but...
just trolley.
No, but you guys raised an interesting point. The difficulty curve, I think, on today's game is more appealing to a general audience.
Yeah, like Prince of Persia, like
Oh god,
Ultimate,
no.
like yesterday.
That's what I wanted to bring up. Burke telling me that, in the Prince of Persia game he bought for his Xbox 360, it is impossible to die, and I couldn't get over the fact that they made a game that easy that, it's a game that you just can't die in. I'm sure people don't like dying in games, but why would you make a game where you can't die? I mean, I can understand if it's a children's game, but this is a game for people who are used to the Prince of Persia series, that are used to all the deaths that will happen in Prince of Persia, Prince of Persia series.
Mind you,
Yeah.
my opinion is from a dude that's only played a Prince of Persia demo, but even then, I could see that it was a platforming puzzle challenger game with action, with emphasis on action. If you can't
It's not
die
even
in
the
that
fact that
kind of
it's-
game, you've got a bad mix.
It's not even the fact that it's not fun. It's just the fact that it takes a lot of the sense of danger you will have with all Prince of Persia games, where you will be able to die in a platforming section, and that will make you be more careful, just because of that sense of urgency that you could die. And in this, you can't die, so the difficulty curve is so low, so it's so easy
And
because you can't actually die.
Back to the difficulty of old video games. I don't want to stray too far off topic.
No, this is on topic.
Well, yeah, I know, but I mean, we're still
It's a topic.
we're still on classic old video games. And I keep on bringing up references to newer video games, but I mean, Gardad here, he made me play a very, very difficult platformer for the original Nintendo. It was called
He still hates me
Mappyland.
for it.
It was a pretty terrible game. I mean, I just, it's not even that the game itself is hard. It's that the game's so slow and blocky that it's not responsive enough. It's not, the pixels don't match where you actually need to go. And it just results in endless game overs, and I just couldn't even finish the game because it was so hard. I mean,
He couldn't get past the first cycle, people.
I own the Super Nintendo and the Nintendo 64, and I had trouble beating mostly every game I had because as a child I just had problems. The games were too difficult, like Super Metroid. Super Metroid. Back then I didn't know about
again, that goes with the difficulty curve of as gaming has evolved.
But I mean, they tried making games
Bring up
easier.
that old NES titles and older games, for mainstream systems were incredibly difficult because they had to be, and yet it seems throughout the years that as gaming has evolved, it has actually the difficulty curve has dropped drastically.
I agree.
I mean, the Super Nintendo. Say what you will about Super Metroid and it being an incredibly difficult game, Corb, but the original Metroid is still a much more difficult game.
Well,
than Super
obviously, and Metroid 2 for the Game Boy Color, or was
Color.
it? Yeah, that game was difficult. Don't even get me started on the handheld games. The only extremely easy games I know for the Game Boy and the Game Boy Color were the Pokemon games because they were linear and there wasn't much that you could do that would be wrong. I mean, I don't know why I personally like the sense of difficulty in my games. I don't know why they decided they want to make games so easy now. Like,
I
go
really
ahead, Bert.
believe it's because the developers are starting to realize that their market has changed from what it was in the 90s or 80s, that they can't just cater to the hardcore gamer anymore because gaming has become so huge that they have to worry about the casual gamer who might be frustrated by a game being too difficult. and that's why I believe that difficulty in games has the difficulty range has gotten so low is because they're trying to cater to a wider audience.
Case in point, Plants vs. Zombies. I played through that game several times, and I feel like I have no choice but to complain that it's just a little too easy sometimes. But I did the research and it won like Casual Game of the Year.
Yeah, I mean, I think the ending of difficult video games came with the Nintendo 64 and the PlayStation 1 and Xbox, for the fact that the last difficult game for that era I remember playing was Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time for that dungeon which will not be named, the Water Temple, and I just remember that was like pretty much the most difficult thing I had to do. Well, that and just playing through Majora's Mask itself as a kid, that was a little tedious. But
I
just remember
never really cared for.
You never cared for Majora's Mask?
No, I never cared for the fact that you had 3 days to pretty much beat each dungeon you're on, and if you didn't, you had to redo it all over again because you have to rewind time again.
I mean,
it was a
huh.
It was a cool feature back when I was a kid, but I can see why some people didn't like it because it's just annoying starting a dungeon on the first or second day and then realizing that I started too late and now I need to rewind time and do that all over again.
Oh, there's also I think that was the reason why I stopped playing Majora's Mask because I was clueless.
Yeah.
I was like, what? The moon's gonna crash into the earth every day? What? And there's nothing I can do about it? What?
I honestly believe that it was...
notice...
Huh?
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that I honestly believe that it was Sony that started the beginning of the... I wouldn't say easy video games, but the slightly... just not stressfully difficult video games. Like, I recently played through the majority of Final Fantasy IX for the PlayStation 1, and, as much as I hate to say it, that game was easy. There was a little challenge place to place, but it was just so easy. And Final Fantasy VII, that... I don't understand why people enjoy that game so much, but I found that game incredibly easy, and most every game I play on the PlayStation 1, RPG... Some platformers are pretty easy because the platformers for the PlayStation 1 mainly consisted of Crash Bandicoot, Spyro, which I guess Spyro is a little challenging, but Crash Bandicoot was just easy. It wasn't...
No,
you've never played Crash 1.
Yes, I have.
Okay, we really have to stop you there because certain games on the PS1 were mind-numbingly difficult. For example, the last half of Crash 1, I've heard, and I haven't actually played it myself, mind you, because I never owned Crash 1, but the last half of Crash 1 was incredibly difficult due to several different environmental changes that they made during the last half. The last act of Crash 2, for example, also had that difficulty spike during the last act because of the environmental changes that they have. Spyro, however, never actually increased on its own difficulty, and I'm going to say this even about Symphony of the Night. I didn't actually beat Symphony of the Night because I got lost early on, and I said, this just isn't all that entertaining to me. I did. I seriously got lost. I'm a fucking noob. Get over it. And while I was playing Symphony of the Night, I was like, there were only a few times that I was seriously in need of getting healed and actually needed to get health.
I just forgot what I was going to say, too. God, Leroy, I honestly forget what I was going to say.
Well, Gerda, you sound like, from what you described, you could even infer that the game is a little broken because it doesn't require the player to use the in-game features that was provided for them. You know what I'm saying?
Nope.
But it does. It's just that I got lost and didn't care to find my way through.
I do remember.
Then you suck.
I do remember
yes,
what
I suck. I openly admit this.
I do remember what I wanted to ask though. Gerda, you play a lot of PlayStation 1 era and lower RPGs. Tell me, does the grinding, make the game not worth playing most of the time? So I know a lot of the games.
I'm going to correct you on this hardcore. My library of PlayStation games that I have ever played is about between 20 and 30. I'll grant that a lot of those were RPGs, such as the Digimon World 2 and 3, and Final Fantasy 8. But in all seriousness, I do not find the grinding in those kind of games that bad. This is because I grew up with them and understood that that's what I was going to have to do, and I did it voluntarily. However, a lot of newer games either have too much grinding or not enough, and they space it out by having incredibly long, elongated cutscenes, which are cool and awesome to look at, but then you realize nothing actually affected the characters during this time.
I mean,
for old school gamers such as myself and a few other people, this is like, well, if the cutscene isn't actually going to affect my in-game characters in any real way, then it's totally worthless and should be able to should be skipped.
I mean,
but if you're saying that you're not believable if a cutscene offers anything to your character in terms of inventory or items or anything that it should be skipped.
No, not in terms of that. I'm actually talking in like either character development or story development. There are cutscenes in modern day games that are literally just showing off the stages. And earlier RPGs did it too, but they were not, nearly as long.
CGI.
They said, "Oh, look, our Techno City. Watch as we zoom in and out for doing a 10-second loop." And then you went back around. It was...
Yeah, I can agree with that. Because I'm really lazy and I just want to start playing a game, and I really hate having to see all the logos at the beginning of a game and not being able to skip it when I just want to jump right in the game.
I mean...
No, I hate pointless cutscenes.
But, I mean, playing through Final Fantasy IX, you get used to pointless cutscenes, because... there's something in that game called the active time events for anybody who's ever played that game, which are these mini cutscenes that you can, sometimes are optional, sometimes are mandatory, and they just show you things that go on.
Those are not usually useless cutscenes.
Mostly are.
They don't actually affect your items in inventory, sure, but they actually delve you into a certain aspect of the game that you may have missed out on before. Like a few of Vivi's active time cutscenes reveal that even though he is a black mage and is therefore a creation of Queen Barmecia's pseudo-whatsamajigga army thingamadoohickey, he still actually has a soul and is worried about his friends and all of this kind of other character development. He is not
Also, way to spoil the game, Gurdat.
Yes, spoilers alert everywhere.
You should have said that beforehand. But I mean,
we can delete that.
Yeah, we'll probably get there. But
we'll edit it.
Now, for our next thing, I want to talk about the cons of old video games, and probably the biggest one we all know, definitely in the Nintendo and Game Boy era, terrible, misplaced graphics. Now, I'm not talking about, beautiful shimmer graphics. I mean, the graphics themselves, the pixels. I just can't...
Now, the Game Boy Color and the original Game Boy have excuses. These were, between 8 and 10-bit systems. They have a reason to look like total shit, okay? And so technically does the NES. And if you really want to go on that route, fine, go on that route. It annoys a lot of people that they have shit for graphics. I personally don't care. I still have a lot of fun playing on the Game Boy Color and Game Boy with just, a few of the later games.
I mean, I just hate playing earlier games like Mega Man 2, and there's a platform right in front of me, and I swear I touched the edge, but of course, that edge is actually fake, and I fall through it. And definitely in Mappy Land, when that happened, I was getting extremely frustrated because...
Well, again, you touched on Mappy Land having really bad physics and coding, and yeah, that's Mappy Land has fake difficulty. I will openly admit to this.
Oh, shit. Why did my thing just change? Also...
Honestly, if we're talking about the cons of old gaming, I think it will probably be that, again, this goes back to the fact that the video games as themselves were still in its infancy, and developers still really didn't know what they were doing at times, and you could see this that some of the games just being broken and having so many issues, and just the fact that there's a lot of times you notice that there's not like there's no sense of direction, because the industry itself, I mean, there wasn't a lot of directive. Like the designers weren't direct all the time with what they were trying to do with their game, so you end up having a game that felt very fragmented.
Oh, before I forget, no, there was one more kind I wanted to bring up. I'm sorry. The music was better in the old video games than they are in the new video games.
And in all seriousness, I'm gonna have to agree with that, because there are some awesome modern day soundtracks out there.
But at
the moment that you turn it into 8, 16, or 32-bit, it instantly turns better for me. I don't know why.
Really, I love the actual music in the old games, but for the most part, I just can't get the fact that it all sounds so gamey. And my drumming would be a lot more if it sounded more like if you have the old tracks in the old games, and you can tell it's supposed to be orchestra music, but it'll sound like a synthesizer, and I guess that's why I prefer more of the modern soundtracks, because
again,
you can.
It is more of an opinion. It is more of an opinion and acquired taste video game music. If you're into the 8, 16, and 32-bit stuff, rock on. You're awesome. If you're into the modern day stuff, okay, I don't give a damn.
I mean, me and Burke here have both been playing through Final Fantasy 13 for the Xbox 360, and that game, even though it's not made by the famous Nobuo Uematsu, who made the soundtrack for about every Final Fantasy game prior to that, it's still a really great soundtrack. It's not what you would expect for a Final Fantasy game. When you expect Final Fantasy game music, you expect songs like Dancing Mad, One Winged Angel, just
both of which I hate.
Shut up. Just stuff like that. And what you get is you get actual songs, like there's singing, and it's very melodic. It's not it's not an 8-bit keyboard going off at you.
It's very orchestral.
Yeah, it's very orchestrated.
It's a very epic feeling.
I mean, and a lot of games
word is orchestral, by the way.
And a lot of games these days are just going into the the not orchestral but the instrumental vibes, not the old catchy beat type vibes. It's more genre-ish, if that's a word. More it fits into somewhere, not video game music.
Yeah, that's the thing why I probably like the 13 soundtrack, is because I'm listening to it, and for the most part I'm like, this is really gamey. This sounds like a game soundtrack. And that's really the kind of music I like in my video games, is the kind of music that isn't blatantly gamey, doesn't sound gamey, if that makes any sense. And this is for the most part, is the music that you could really just tell somebody, yeah, this is some orchestra music. And they'll be like, yeah, I can see that.
No.
Whereas like, no, this is music for a video game.
Now, I don't think any of you have any more stuff to say about classic video games, pro or con? Final thoughts?
Well, I mean, with classic games, I mean, just because of the technical limitations, sometimes developers would have to be really creative. I mean, I remember playing this game called Outer Scrolls. I don't know if Eddie remember me playing it. And that game is, I mean, it is a really weird game, but just the style of that game is just so eye-catching. And just the way it plays, it is one of those games where you're just playing because you're so curious about it. And it is it is definitely not a casual game, because half the time you don't know what you're supposed to be doing and you will die a lot. But the visual style was very good for its time, and they did the best they could with what they had, and you could tell it's just well done.
And before we move on, I just want to note something. I feel that it was really it has to do with a specific game, a specific console, but I feel that older video games really influenced the newer video games. Definitely, the one example I do want to bring up is James Bond 007 GoldenEye for the Nintendo 64.
Oh yes,
That game,
is a big one right
I
there.
don't care what anybody says, that game is the most influential game on first-person shooters to this day. That and maybe Counter-Strike, because every first-person shooter, Call of Duty, Halo, anything, was originally has to be originally based around those. That and Perfect Dark maybe, but
I'm not gonna say it was Perfect Dark and GoldenEye. I personally think that Doom and Quake had more influence than
don't
they
believe that.
I think Quake did for a while because for the longest time, online multiplayer shooters were very arcadey. I mean, you had Halo, you had Quake, Quake 3, Quake Arena, Unreal Tournament,
Call of Duty 2
and
when that was
really,
out.
Yeah, and it's really we really didn't start moving towards the more militaristic online shooters until Call of Duty really started going on, like with Modern Warfare.
Yep.
That's when everybody's.
Sorry, but that's just really where people started deciding that Call of Duty was, the first-person shooter king, and that every other first-person shooter is obsolete. Where I find that wrong, because if there, I honestly believe if there weren't the original shooters like Quake, GoldenEye, Doom, stuff like that, there wouldn't be Call of Duty right now.
Well, let's not ignore the fact that the Call of Duty engine is a Quake 3, the Quake 3 engine extremely modified. So yeah, you can tell why it has powers elements from Quake. Because it's a militaristic shooter, but it's also really, really twitchy. It's a really twitchy game.
Well, now that
well, GoldenEye had its flaws too. Like I just watched a video recently where I just watched a video recently where this guy said that the biggest dick move you can do with this game is play as Oddjob, and the reason why playing as Oddjob is a dick move is because he's short, and he's short. When you got characters that are outside of the default aiming cursor, they're impossible to shoot. That was a major flaw with GoldenEye.
That's why if you got the standard, if you didn't get a game pack with Perfect Dark, you weren't allowed access to the aliens. However, if you got a game pack and actually, went into and actually did parts of the campaign, you actually got access to the aliens. And the same thing can be said about them. Aliens were literally half the model size of Joanna and all of the other sprites. But if you didn't get the game pack and you just had the standard multiplayer cart for Perfect Dark, you all had the same character model. But you were always Joanna, and everybody else was always blank slate guy number 312.
But did that affect gameplay?
Being able to switch into an alien. If you had the ability, it's what you did, because again, changing the ability to change your model dimensions made it so that your hitbox changed, and if your hitbox changed, that would actually directly affect how people would perform against you.
I don't find first-person shooters or any shooter in the sense to be the big problem with hitbox. And I'm about to sneeze in a second. I'm sorry if I do, but I find fighting games more irritating with character hitboxes, because I don't know if any of you've ever played Marvel vs. Capcom 2, but there's a character named Sentinel who, takes up the whole screen, and sure, while he was a nuisance and, was spammy and all that, any character in the game could hit him. It was impossible to drop combos on him because he was so big, and then there's the problem that there was characters like Wolverine and Tron Bonne and Mega Man and Roll and characters like that were so small that you couldn't hit them with normal attacks. You could only do crouching attacks on them. And it would just get to the point where it was frustrating, where I wanted to break my Xbox controller playing it, Well, not against Roll. Roll tier is terrible.
It's kind of like the direction that Call of Duty went in. We used to be satisfied with just being able to shoot people and just being able to get good shots, but now we got perk systems, and now we got experience systems.
And
so
360 headshots off the rooftop with a throwing knife.
Yes.
It's ridiculous.
We all love those.
And Burke sounds like
I still really love the old school online shooters. we used to play Quake 2, even though my connection was horrible, and I still really find that fun because I don't need a perk system. I don't need an incentive to play an online shooter. I play it for fun. I don't need to unlock new weapons, get new abilities, level up. I just play for fun.
And I think modern gaming has actually lost that element, where it's just about having a good time with some friends or having some good time with some people that you don't even give a shit about.
It's all about the metagame.
It's now about, standard progression. If there's no progression, it's not a good game. That's bullshit. I can go and replay Kirby Superstar for the 4 billionth time and still have fun with it.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say that because Final Fantasy 13, as much as there really isn't any progression, I just find myself going through the game anyway until, you start getting into the annoying side quests, but there isn't really progression in that game. There's progression through the story mode, but the Crystarium is totally up to you. You don't have to do anything with it. I mean, you probably can't get past, any bosses if you don't use it, but you don't have to. I mean, even Burke would know that, it is a progression system, but they could have gone without it. They could have just gone, normal standard RPG level up system. Yeah, they could have done that. The game would have been fine, but they went with something that, was totally up to the player. The player didn't have to do anything if they didn't want to.
See, the thing is with the 13, that the leveling up system isn't the most amazingly broad thing ever, because for the most part it's really a trick but there is a choice to be made. You don't need to make a character a certain way. You don't need to make Lightning into a command or Ravager. If you want, you can make him into a Saboteur or a Synergist. It's all up to you how you use your Crystarium points. It's not extremely broad, but just the fact that the choice is there is really nice.
And another thing... Oh, sorry. But I just wanted to say, another thing with modern games is, definitely on the PC, just on the PC, it seems that, old MMORPGs like World of Warcraft, which were originally, played through the game, fight big boss monsters, but in games, Blizzard changed the way they make their title updates now. Now they make the updates so that it's more about the story and less about the game. And I know a lot of people were actually complaining about that. They were like, because the way the expansion packs goes, for people who don't know, is there's normal WoW, then there's Burning Crusade, then there's Wrath of the Lich King, and then there's Cataclysm. Now, people were complaining that they were just focusing too much on the story, that they really were messing up on the game itself, and people complain that they just wanted to take it back to Burning Crusade. And MMOs like World of Warcraft, what are good old MMOs, MapleStory, just stuff like that. And I find that they're really dying out in popularity, and it's sad because it's like every other MMO now is not. It's about the grinding and it's about the story. It's not about the game. And that's what I find with a lot of Xbox 360, PS3, and Wii titles as well. Definitely, like, just like playing through Marvel vs. Capcom 3. Why is there a story in a fighting game? I don't get it, but somebody else can talk.
To those of you that are going to complain about having stories in your video games, I say bullshit GTFO.
No, I don't care. I don't care if there's. I like story in video games, but developers like to put story over gameplay when sometimes that is a good idea. I would say that I say that's how it is in 13, because the gameplay is really just hit on a little bit of strategy, but it's mostly about the story. You don't play for the gameplay; you play for the story.
It's really most games nowadays. It's really rare to find a game that has a good mix of story and gameplay.
That incorporates it correctly.
It's usually either a really good story and mediocre gameplay, or really good gameplay and a mediocre story. I mean, it's the thing with them.
And then you have games like Metal Gear Solid 4.
Yeah,
that are all story, no gameplay. No, but I think BioShock implemented it perfectly.
I love BioShock. That is a great game. I mean, the story wasn't... I mean, the way they presented the story, that the story didn't interrupt your gameplay. The story, it was told in a very organic way. You picked up on the story as you progressed through the world. And it was a... I mean, everything was first person. You went through the world, you explored the world, you learn about the world at your own pace, and the story wasn't very it wasn't very in your face. You weren't being force fed the story.
Now, I mean, I understand that, you know, some games are made for the gameplay, not the story, like the Call of Duty series. But I personally loved the Modern Warfare storylines. I mean, I actually enjoyed playing through it. And then I got Call of Duty Black Ops. Now, let me tell you, for those who have not played, that story is just... It's like watching a really bad 80s action movie, except back then watching really bad 80s action movies were hilarious because, you know, you didn't have the perception of what we have now, and it was just they just try and incorporate things that people don't want anymore. I mean, who wants to hear a story about black operatives during the Vietnam era? As we all know, the Vietnam War wasn't even really a war. You know, they added unnecessary things into it, and it just breaks the story.
Red Dozen Moon has just offended 13 million people.
Yeah. we just somehow incorporated
Activision's fanboys will be sending me a message.
Yeah.
I will.
No, but
all your messages are belong
the
to
Black
us.
Ops campaign. I did not think it was a bad campaign.
Yes,
I just
you
didn't
did.
really find myself. I just didn't find myself engaged. I just didn't care. I didn't care about the convoluted story. I didn't care about the character. I didn't care. Oh, look, some crazy stuff is happening. The story it makes no sense. It's just one plot twist after another plot twist after another plot twist.
Well, let's not get too off subject, because we've been on the subject for about 20 minutes now. We should probably, no, not 20, about 15, but we should talk about more pros and cons. So another pro, shut up. Another pro, another pro I'd like to give about newer generation games. It's more for the new generation consoles. Is that it's really become an integration. That there's a community now. There isn't there was always online multiplayer, but there was never community multiplayer where there was, you know, groups that, you know, you join around in and you guys would go play games. With newer games today, you connect with friends. You know, play games with friends. Like, I can't tell you how much I used to enjoy getting a party of 4, me and 3 others, and playing Left 4 Dead. I mean, we'd be up all night doing that because, you know, it's fun. It's just an experience of being able to play with others. I mean, games always gave you that, but when it's actually, you know, supposed to be a part of the community to play with, a part of the game to play with your friends, you know, it really makes me feel that, you know, that was a good step in the multiplayer sense. I mean, games like Quake, you know, you can play with friends, but there wasn't any drive to play with friends, you know. There wasn't any real motive to play with friends, because, you know, it was always you against them, or you two would just be on a team and shoot at other people. There was really, you know, nothing going on, no teamwork. It was just shoot. But with, like, the newer...
Oh, come on, dude. You played the Quake 2 co-op with us.
That was terrible. The co-op was just a rehash of the single player.
I don't want to say it was terrible. It was mainly because you doing work just decided to keep killing each other over and over.
But, I mean...
That was fun.
I mean, definitely with Treyarch's addition of, you know, the zombie modes in the Call of Duty games, I feel that that's... I honestly believe that's better than their multiplayer. Their normal multiplayer, because people buy their game not for the single player, not for the multiplayer, but for the zombies. And that's because in today's era, people want to play with other people. There are more people getting into the gaming genre every day, you know. It's not decreasing, it's only increasing. And it's a lot of younger kids who play with, you know, their brothers, sisters, fathers, uncles, grandfathers, you know all that.
Dude, bro, friends.
Yeah, so shut up. So they all
And while I agree that having a strong gaming community is important, it's not like Doom and UT did not have those kind of gaming
they did, but they weren't really public. They were for people.
They weren't public because they weren't public games.
They were public games.
I promise you that there were there were communities for Warcraft 2, Age of Empires, Mario Party. I guarantee you had communities, regardless of how painful they freaking were to keep up with.
No, I mean,
and even Smash Brothers. And I'm willing to bet that there were communities that were set up to actually help out players play Final Fantasy V on PlayStation and Super Nintendo.
But yes, Gerda, sorry, Burke, but let me say something real quick. Yes, Gerda, there were communities, but there were communities that could be accessed at any time they wanted to access it. With Xbox Live, PlayStation Network, whatever the Wii one is called, it's Wii Terrible.
Friend codes?
Wii Terrible, yeah, friend code, whatever. You know, you had to live near the person or be able to drive to that person. With the new system, I have my Xbox on right now. Burke could log on right now, and me and him could go smash some kids at Gears too. But you know, we don't have to.
Smashed, more like it.
And it'll take us a minute to do that. While communities back then used to take. Sometimes it could take months to get to. No, what were you going to say?
I really don't think games like Quake can be
community games.
Given fault for not being community games, because I really don't think that it's just something that games are more sociable because that's the way of the world now. It's a natural growth of the world that the world is becoming more close because through the internet. I mean, we have Facebook where we're constantly connected to each other, and everything is moving towards that. And video games going that way. It's just the organic way of growth, and that's just the way it is now. Because we have Xbox Live, we have the PSN network, we have the Wii friend code,
MMORPGs,
and just the way it is. I mean, you have clans in Black Ops, you have all these clans in the multiplayer games. And
Counter-Strike Source. That's a big competitive first-person shooter out there that is not a game that you usually play by yourself. It's a community game. You usually play in public lobbies for a little bit, and then once you feel like you want to go on, you go join a clan or a team, and you start playing competitively. It's not one of those games that you just sit in you just sit in pubs all day and smash kids. You smash kids and then you join a clan, and this really has nothing to do with video games, but there's also in the sense that... Never mind, I'm not going to bring it up. Sorry. Somebody go on. Whoosh.
Alright, I want to bring up... a con of modern gaming, although I'm having difficulties actually putting one out at the moment.
Go for it. Go for it, Gerdet.
How about the... I know that we've already brought up the story or lack thereof of modern day gaming, but that's not to say that certain games have bad stories or that they're done poorly. It's just that we seem to be in a place where either all the decent stories have already been done and we're trying to rip off other stories.
That's exactly what it is.
I personally don't believe this, mind you, but a lot of other people do. That we're just ripping off of better stories.
That's exactly what it is.
Honestly,
yeah, like Corb, Burke, and a lot of other modern gamers will tell you that we're just trying to rip off other stories, and they'll point out and give you word-for-word similarities between this story and another story. And
that's kind of like saying like movies, like they can't come up with a new story idea, and that's bullcrap.
Movies borrow from each other all the time.
Every day.
I mean, every single form of medium borrows from each other, especially in the art form medium.
Especially in Battle of Los Angeles, which was a blatant ripoff of Battle of Los Angeles.
That movie's amazing, Corp. It's incredible.
God.
But the point is, like, I mean, one day we'll probably have video games within video games.
We already have that.
We already have that.
Welcome to Pokemon. Play your Nintendo.
The greatest, well, not greatest, the top-down bullet hell game in it.
So you see, it's already happening. That's the future.
I feel hopeful in storytelling and gaming because I just feel that as the genre, I mean, as the industry progresses, that it's just going to get better. When the developers actually realize that they should actually have a writer at the beginning of their game, and they should actually be working together with the writer and not just bringing a writer halfway through the game, saying, "Okay, here, write us a story, and you have these drawbacks right here. You can make it past this boundary, and we need you to write a story from here."
Oh, and don't steal from Twilight.
So kind of like Heavy Rain.
Yeah, I mean, like that. I mean, they brought that game is really.
I don't even consider that a game. That game is an interactive story, interactive movie. I mean,
I don't mind that though.
I don't either. I would love playing something like that, but it's just. I just find it tedious how every RPG I play nowadays has the same borderline betrayal storyline to it, like Final Fantasy 13 rather. But not going to spoil anything, but massive betrayal. There's also what RPG am I thinking of? Can't think of name. God damn it. Oh, Dragon Age Origins. Your characters betray you. Spoiler sometimes. But it's just...
Your characters usually only betray you but depending on the choices that you made.
Yeah, but shut up.
If you're a total dick, then they betray you. If you're nice to them, they're cool with you.
See, but that's the thing. I'll bring up Enslaved again. I mean, they brought a writer from the beginning for that game, and you can really tell because that game does have some gameplay issues, but for the most part, they do a good job of working around that, and they really craft the story well into what their game is. And the story isn't incredible, but the story, the way it's told, is very organic. The cutscenes, the facial animations in that game, I think are really great. They do a really good job of conveying the story they're telling, because I really believe half that story is through the facial animations. Because there's dialogue in that game, but it's not 15 minutes of dialogue.
Now, there is one con I'd like to get to before we run out of time, and the con is Duke Nukem Forever. Why is that game released?
Now, we all have opinions and theories as to why this game bombed. My personal opinion, it was in development hell for 12 years. Of course it bombed.
My personal opinion is that the game hasn't been touched in such a long time that they make a Halo 2 or Halo 1 reference in it, Halo 2 was released in 2002. What are you doing?
2004.
2004.
Oh. Okay, Halo 1 was in 2002 then. What are you... And then they're making references to Highlander and other movies.
That character doesn't work anymore. Duke Nukem doesn't work anymore.
No, because he makes...
In the 90s, it was okay.
He makes jokes that 12-year-olds will laugh to.
It was okay in the 90s because there was no such thing as an actual character. We had a guy on the screen that didn't talk, and that was basically it. We didn't really... That was something new for us. Is, well, wait, there's a guy that I'm playing as who actually talks and who is, even in the smallest sense, relatable.
Yeah,
but no, it doesn't work
Duke
anymore.
Nukem wasn't relatable though. He was just a kick-ass. He was just
relatable in the way that he actually spoke, and it was such an odd thing for a shooter in the '90s, in the early '90s, to have a character that actually talk.
Duke Nukem 3D.
And it also doesn't help that the graphics were from the Xbox era. Wait. I have a con about a video game called Homefront. The graphics on that game relate to the PlayStation 2. I swear to God, what is wrong with that's the con. Developers nowadays, they release crap to make profit, and they spend, in the case of Homefront, half their budget marketing. And
I won't blame the developers all the way, because that's also just incredible mismanagement. Because if you leave developers to screw around by themselves, that's the kind of crap you get. That is just mismanagement. That is just bad foresight, and I still really believe that they just really said, "Well, we have this game we have to release, so let's put the remaining budget on marketing, and when Homefront 2 comes out, we'll make sure it's a lot better." How the first Assassin's Creed was either people were always so torn on it with whether it was good or not. And then Assassin's Creed 2 made a big jump in terms of quality, and you see now that Assassin's Creed is like some big franchise.
The con is developers do whatever they can to make money nowadays. Pokemon Black and White.
Developers exactly let me make money. It's just the fact that the actual
the companies they work for. Oh no, I'm talking about people like Nintendo. Every game they make now is to milk out an old franchise. We had Donkey Kong Returns, which did poorly. That game did not sell very well. You had Pokemon Black and White, which sold...
There's a reason that game didn't sell well.
They sold Pokemon Black and White. That game sold incredibly well. Now, while it is your standard, oh look, I'm a Pokemon game, it was just... What is this? I've done this 50 times, and now I gotta do it with bland, unoriginal Pokemon ideas. I mean,
that's the thing, though. I've heard people argue before that all Nintendo does is milk first-person party games, but these are also the same people who go flip out when a new Zelda game is announced. And honestly, it seems that this is what they want. They want a Zelda game. They want Mario.
That is what they want,
Metroid.
But they don't. Look at Ocarina of Time 3D. They didn't change anything. It's button remapping, touchscreen features. And they added Master Quest, which was originally on the Ocarina of Time they released a Master Quest for the GameCube. They changed nothing. It was disappointing. I mean, Star Fox 3DS, that changed stuff. They did stuff to that game, but Ocarina of Time 3DS was just another way to milk money from the hipsters, because they're all like, oh, look, I bought this freaking Nintendo 64 at a yard sale with Ocarina of Time, so now I can be hipster with my skinny jeans and stuff. But now it's just catering to people who don't even like the game. It's catering. I mean, I'm sure they like the game, but it's catering to people who, want the game because they think they want the game. Like I think.
Well, I think you guys are bringing up a very fundamental conflict.
Like
Just talking about, developer versus gamer. The developer tries to make money and the gamer wants to have fun.
And half the time it doesn't work right. Like, Black Ops, I would say, would be in that case, Call of Duty Black Ops. That game, it's not bad, but it's a game that they designed so that everybody, even the people that make the game, that make the game unfun, that make the game unjustified, they make everybody happy, so everybody buys it and everybody plays it. That's a double-edged sword, because if that game didn't have the people who use the grenade launcher, who camp, who use the FAMAS, who do just stuff that generally will irritate people, they don't take it out because they know if they do, there goes some of their profit. So it's like they care, but they don't care enough that they want to lose out on a little bit of profit.
Which brings up another con of modern day gaming, which actually goes back to the community. As much as the community has grown and expanded and even improved, there has also been a significant decline. Back in the N64 and NES days, you actually still had all the 10 to 13-year-olds that, did do all the swearing and such. They all did this, and they did this around their friends, and it was cool and it was fine. You bring this into an online marketplace, and all of a sudden it's no longer fine, because these are people that that don't know you and don't care to learn about you once you actually start doing this.
No. It's not even that. It's that online gaming.
It's that you and a 12-year-old buy a copy of Black Ops. You buy it to enjoy it. He buys to enjoy it. But guess who's making the game unfun? It's the kid in the lobby screaming his lungs off when he dies. And as much as you can mute him, what if you're in the middle of a game? You don't want to risk your kill death ratio if you're a serious gamer muting some kid yelling, because mature gamers. Well, okay, I won't say that I don't yell at my Black Ops disc, because I do, because that game is frustrating. But it's just a fact that nowadays they put another con is they put ratings on video games, but they're literally meaningless, because I guarantee you more than 50% of the people playing Black Ops or any Call of Duty, any Halo game are younger than the age of 16. And
I always mute everybody. I always just turn my chat off because I don't feel like hearing.
Well, I mean that's why I like the Xbox Live Party thing. But it's just, it's not fair that, there are gamers who want to, play with, you know, a serious audience, and that's when PC gaming comes into play. Counter-Strike Source and stuff like that's where all the serious gamers go, and all the screaming children and stuff go on the Xbox and stuff, and that drags away people because, you know, they're not even supposed to have the game. They're supposed to.
I really think it's just the fact that PC gaming is. I mean, usually all these kids, they buy all these games with their mommy's allowance, and PC gaming is definitely not the cheapest thing in the world. To buy a expensive rig to be able to play these games.
I mean,
and a console is just a lot cheaper.
Yeah, but the point I'm getting is that kids who are not on the age limit of the game shouldn't be allowed to play the game. What's the point of, you know, letting the parents' the kid's parent buy the game so that the kid can just go home and play and the parents will never see it again? You know, it doesn't make sense to me why they would let that happen. That's just
they can't do anything to stop it. It's just bad parenting. If you are a parent,
sure they
you
could.
buy an M-rated game for your child, and that's your problem.
Consoles should come with an eye scanner that detects age by scanning your eye. So that way, so that way, when you start up, let's say Black Ops multiplayer, you scan your eye, and then when you're a 12-year-old, it punches you in your stomach, and you just sit there and cry. But I digress. I mean,
Corbinick, master of quality control.
Not sure of trolling. But I'm serious though. There's just some way to detect that 12-year-olds are playing the game, and just stop it. In all seriousness, because you know it's annoying. But it's just what's the point of putting a label on a game if it doesn't change anything? That's a con. It's just a con that, you know, developers don't care who play their game. They just care who buys it.
They shouldn't have to care. I mean,
they should.
They shouldn't, because they're selling a product.
Have you seen the gore in Black Ops?
It's not their problem.
Have you seen the gore in Black Ops' single player? Not gore, but the excessive, you know, gore. That they should care if, you know, a kid who played, you know, let's say Modern Warfare, which it was a violent game, but it wasn't extremely gory, and then like, oh cool, the next one's out, and then they get Black Ops and they see some guys I get knifed out. You know, what's that going to tell you?
I really don't care for that. It's just Black Ops it has violence just for the sake of violence.
Yeah, that's a lot of games today, which is another con. It's violence for the sake of violence.
And like I was saying earlier, is that I don't even think the developers would give a damn who plays their game. They're making their game, and they should be. It's not their problem.
Call of Duty Teddy Bear Edition, bro.
What?
Call of Duty Teddy Bear Edition.
Well, they don't want negative externalities. They don't want reasons for people to not like their products.
Well, I know that, but it's just, what's the point of putting on a rating on a game if you're just going to let the person play it anyway? Because you have to. Then what's the point of having to put it on there if it's not doing anything? You know, the only game my parents have ever taken away from me was when I owned my original Sega Genesis, and I had Mortal Kombat. My mom took that away from me because she thought it was too violent. You know, well, it probably was for my age, but you know, it's just the ESRB should just be gone because it doesn't matter anymore. Unless, you know, the game has nudity.
It makes somewhat of a difference, but honestly, it just all goes down to the parents. The parents
don't care.
Always have fault when it. Exactly. If the parents don't care, then you shouldn't worry about it. It's their problem. It's the kid's problem that his parents suck and aren't monitoring what he's actually playing. And ba
black sheep. No.
The ESRB actually has made an impact because they've been.
It's made an impact.
You know who's made an impact?
Australia. They have power.
Australia made an impact. They banned every single violent game to come out. They banned Medal of Honor.
And we still don't care.
They banned Medal of Honor. They banned Mortal Kombat. I forgot what else they banned. But I think that video games are getting a little too realistic.
Isn't that the ultimate goal, to simulate real life?
Yeah, but
yes.
It's getting to the point where, you know, games like, I hate to bring it up again, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, they simulate, Russia or whoever it is attacking the United States. Now, as nice as that is, what if Russia took that in a bad way? Just hypothetically, what if Russia took that in a bad way?
What if they were to get butthurt over a video game?
Hey, it's happened. As we've all seen.
I know it's happened.
When you cancel,
there was a controversy.
When you cancel a little,
there was a big one.
When you cancel a little boy's World of Warcraft account, he ends up shoving a remote up his butt. That is not good. That is taking a video game too seriously. I have taken video games too seriously, as Burke might know. He has played Xbox Live with me. I take games too seriously sometimes, but it's just meh.
Anyway, going back to Black Ops Teddy Bear Edition, another pro con that I actually have about modern games and actually the gaming industry so far is the ability to, well, not necessarily the ability to, but the presence of modding. Modding is an incredibly powerful and useful tool for both gamers and developers, but it also allows
I hope you're talking about PC gaming.
You can do it with console games.
Yeah,
too,
but with console gaming, it's illegal and you'll get banned
if you get caught.
So how is that a pro or con?
People get caught.
Yeah. Like I remember in Black Ops, people were trying to use their J tags to get to instant 15th, and Cherokee was like, "Lol, no, ban Hammer of Death," and banned them. And how is that a good thing? How's that a pro at all, Gernat? I want to know how cheating is a pro.
Not cheating, I said modding.
So cheating.
It is cheating.
What? Modding. I think he's talking about modding, like Oblivion on the PC where you could make.
No, he's talking about modding on the. He's also talking about on the console, like the kids who use rapid fire for the FAL and just.
Wait, no, not on the console. What the hell's wrong with you, Gerd?
You guys have never seen a modded game on a console, have you?
I have. Modern Warfare 2, Call of Duty 4.
They're not like an epidemic.
Oh god, have you played Call of Duty 4? World of War? Those games are epidemics with modding. People mod using their J tags, which make quotation hacked unquotation lobbies, where you have infinite noob tubes that just shoot out without reloading, and people can't die, and it just makes pretty much the best Call of Duty ever, which was Call of Duty 4, Modern Warfare, terrible. And it's like, oh, why? But I digress.
So I concede that I don't really know that much about that area.
Yeah, the only time I've ever seen you play Call of Duty 4 was with me during our test recording.
So everyone except me here seriously thinks that modding can only be a bad thing.
Yes.
It's not
well, on the
playing
PC,
the game.
on the PC it's fine. If it's like a texture swap on the PC, that's fine. But modding, I don't think you understand what modding on a console game means.
I only think it's bad if you're modding for multiplayer purposes. But if you're just modding for single player purposes, then go right ahead.
There you go, Burke. That's more what I'm getting into.
Well,
the ability to modify game code for your own.
I have some mods for Minecraft that just make the game a lot more.
He's talking about console games. There's no. Why would you mod a console game? What game would you possibly want to mod on single player for a console game?
Super Smash Brothers Brawl.
I love to mod Gears of War. I love to mod Gears of War 2 and make the Lancers
You're talking about you're just like talking about changing textures.
Not just textures. People have modded and hacked in full new characters in Super Smash Brothers Brawl.
That's cheating if you play online.
It's cheating if you play online, sure, which is why you don't play online with these hacks. You literally you literally make these hacks, invite your friends over, and then you show off how awesome you are.
Awesome, meaning you wasted time on a computer making some terrible texture and move packs. That's awesome.
Especially when you give it to the rest of the planet, and yeah, you can port over those texture packs and movesets to other people.
Bah.
Indeed.
Well,
modding is not a bad thing.
I love modding on the PC. That's about it.
Yeah.
I
love using my
I mean,
aimbot. Derp herp.
I love modding the hell out of System Shock 2 until I eventually broke it. That was a lot of fun.
Awkward silence.
Yes.
Well, we've been talking for over an hour now.
Yep, an hour and 9 minutes.
It's 12, that it's midnight.
It's 1 a.m. for me.
And I'm
Yeah.
busy.
It's 10 after 1 here at Cloud.
Camtasia better have recorded
and
this.
it broke at midnight.
I swear to God, if Camtasia didn't record this, I'm gonna break a table.
That'd be
Don't
so-
worry.
Alright,
I've been recording.
I guess that on our awkward silence note, I guess we're gonna...
Final review.
I think
Final
we're actually done.
instance, Gerdat. Combo breaker. So, this is where I'm just gonna say we all give our opinion. Classic or old. I mean, derp. Classic or new. I say, I play... I mean, recently I've been playing Classic more, so... I would honestly say that I prefer classic games over newer games.
I'm neutral. I can really pick
What are you talking about?
one,
You've
but
never
whatever.
finished any game you own.
You know what?
Hey, he finished Enslaved.
Yes.
How about that Final Fantasy 6, bro?
Yeah, I'll beat the game eventually.
Gerdat, obviously
Bro.
we already know your answer.
I'm gonna cheat like Berg and say both.
You don't even play...
Modern gaming has a lot of potential that I really hope
you
to see
even
expanded
play
upon.
modern games.
But I still love going back and just playing on my SNES MU or my PS1 MU, or hell, even my GBA and NES MU.
You don't even own
going
a
back on
second-gen console. I mean a new-gen console. And how about you, Cloud? Are you a neutral, newer classic?
Are you?
I'm neutral. I really have nothing to say.
You're all assholes. How come you all made me look like the ass hat? I hate you all.
So what basically Cloud is saying is that Cloud is Switzerland.
What?
Yes, Cloud is store money at Cloud's bank.
You're all
Cloud's
bad. So on this note, I'd like to thank you for watching. I'm Corbinik, or Ritos and Moon.
Listening.
Shut your mouth, it's the same thing.
I am Berg163, and I believe my YouTube account is Berg163. I don't remember.
Here's a lot of good Naruto AMVs on there. You should check it out.
Yeah, I have a lot of great AMVs on my profile. I have especially one about Inuyasha that has the great American Reject song called "It Ends Tonight." All of you should check it out. It is fantastic.
Cloud.
I'm good at 14. I'm a noob.
He has a YouTube channel under the name of Grid14. Check him out.
Or don't.
Or do.
And I'm over on Cloud91. Well,
Check out his channel.
Yes, check out my awesome channel.
Channel of
That's right.
awesomeness.
It has videos on it.
And
Everyone
penguins.
has videos.
Lots and lots of penguins. That's where they are. Hodo.
Oh, herb.
Okay, guys. Thank you for watching.
Thank you
Be
for
safe.
listening
You're
to
her?
this episode. You're her. Yeah, you're her. All right.
Okay, see you guys.